If you're here, I'm going to start putting into the chat, this will happen repeatedly, a document that you are going to want to have access to, and that could include during today's session. I'll turn off pre-session music right now, or at least turn it way down. And my co-facilitator had the power go out about a whole 3 minutes ago. So she's going to try and get back to us. But if not, we will get through this in the beginning. She will eventually be back. So in the chat, this is what we refer to in all of our sessions as a hyperdoc. And it is a document, a Google document that's hot linked with all of the resources we are going to use today. So I will tell you, it is helpful if you can manage that in another tab or on another screen. Not critical, because we'll post in the chat the links. We'll keep posting the link to the hyperdoc. And because this is a webinar, you know, the only way that we're going to get to interact during this session is via the chat. So please use the chat as much as you want to. And again, when my co-host gets here, we do a pretty good job, or my co-facilitator, I should say, we do a pretty good job of making sure we can answer in the chat. So grab your last drink. Cupertino is telling me it's 11:57, meaning we have 3 more minutes. Grab your favorite, you know, midday beverage, water, more caffeine for some of us. Maybe a piece of scratch paper is sometimes helpful, not necessary. And we'll be starting in just a couple minutes. There's one. Dawn and I played music often to start our sessions, just to get everybody in a happy, positive mood. Okay, and there's my co-host, Dawn. So I'm going to mute myself for just a second. Okay, welcome back again. So, again, I told you I have a co-facilitator. We facilitate often together. And you know how technology is. Sometimes technology sends us a wrinkle. So, couple things. Hey, thanks, Frank, for interacting in the chat, because that's how I know you're there today and that you might have questions. So I'm going to start out by asking you, as I get the slide deck up until my co-facilitator gets here, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in the chat. Hey, Paige, good to see you again. I'm going to ask you to share with us, okay, where you're from. Obviously your name's there, where you're from and what you teach, okay? And if you want to do that while I get the closed captioning going and start sharing our screen, it would be awesome, okay? Because one of the things we know is having things as absolutely interactive as you can is a pretty big help, okay? So let me just get this going. I have to go to present. Oops. Over here, let me see if I can do this. I know what to do. It's just Dawn was the driver yesterday. So just to be totally, fully honest, I haven't shared my screen in Hopin yet, so please have a little grace with me. I'm having a learning curve on the spot, in the moment, which is always fun times, right? Okay, so I am clicking and sharing my screen. Hey, Elizabeth from Spokane, glad to have you. Okay, not sharing my screen right yet, so I'm hoping Josie is supposed to be here. Uh, uh, just a minute. Let me see if I can quit sharing my screen. Try it one more time. Share. And Josie, if you're there and you're supposed to be there, I just want to know, I think I share the entire screen. I'll take a guess. Okay. If it's not right, we'll come back to it. Okay, let's see if this, nope, that's not what I want. So I'm going to stop my share one more time. Please be patient with me. Sorry that I'm getting to learn. Apparently our helper isn't here yet, and that's okay, because you know what? I can keep at it, and 54 people get the fabulous learning opportunity of watching me do it. So I'm going to try sharing a Chrome tab and see if this works. And I want to share the slide deck. Let's see if this works and makes it prettier for you. Yes! So thank you all 53 people for staying with us. And thank you. Hey, Deanna's from my region in Colville. You guys are doing a great job. So when Dawn gets here, we'll have her introduce herself. My name is Deb Kulkowski, and I need to get, just a minute, I need to get closed captioning done. So just give me a second here. I need to get back to a different screen and a slide deck. Because this is something we forgot to do yesterday, and I believe it's up and going now. So we see this. Again, my name is Deb Kulkowski. I'm a regional math coordinator out of Spokane, Washington. And before I was at the ESD and a regional math coordinator, I spent a lot of years in the classroom, mostly at middle school, teaching. And then I came to the ESD and got to work with teachers. And I will tell you that my co-facilitator, who has problem solved now through a quick issue that happens, we have very similar backgrounds, don't we, Dawn?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Sorry to just join you. I had a little glitch in my internet and it just popped off and the squirrels came back a little slowly. So, Deborah, I don't know quite what you were saying right before I got on.
So I was just introducing myself because we have the most amazing 58 participants. Again, I told them we'd only be interacting in the chat, and to introduce themselves, tell us where they're from. And so they've been doing that. And then I know that one of the things that you and I do often is that we introduce ourselves on our first slide to get our party started. And if I, Dawn, could figure out how I'm advancing the slide, I was telling him you were the driver yesterday. So I didn't have this experience yet, and now I think I see it. This takes us to our next slide, and we can introduce ourselves. So if that touched on me, jump in here.
All right. Well, my name's Dawn Sparks, and I am the regional math coordinator out of Yakima, Washington. Our ESD, though it's in Yakima, I'm actually coming to you from my home in Ellensburg, Washington. So I'm a former 4th grade, 6th grade teacher, taught for 25 plus years. And now I've been at the ESD supporting math for the last 8 or 9 years. So glad to be with you today.
Okay. And this brings us to our land acknowledgement. We like to start our sessions by acknowledging that we're coming from some traditional tribal lands. And if you look at Spokane over on the right there, I am coming from the Colville Confederated Tribes land. And Dawn, I think you're coming from the Yakima, isn't that correct?
I am, Deborah, but we're seeing your first slide. We're not seeing the land acknowledgement slide.
Okay, so here's what I am going to do, Dawn. I'm going to stop my share quickly,
All right.
and I bet you're going to share.
Yeah, but you're going to put that.
Oh, and people were seeing the land acknowledgement.
Oh, they were?
That's
Okay.
that's in the chat now. Thanks,
Oh.
Elizabeth, Courtney, and Michelle.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, okay. If you could share again, that would be great.
Okay, just a second. I'll get back to present, and I have to just quickly get to closed caption again. And now I will share my screen again. And please let us know if you're seeing. And Dawn, did you share just the Chrome tab? Is that what you did yesterday? Do you remember when you
did computer? I think I can share now. I've got the PowerPoint presentation open.
Okay.
Let me try sharing. Sorry, folks.
That's okay. And I love Wanda, Diane, and Susan, and Tanya. They're sharing what traditional tribal lands they're coming from. As Dawn begins the share, I will tell you that we really want to acknowledge our appreciation and our for our Indigenous neighbors and their enduring caring of both our land and our waterways. So that's how we like to finish up our land acknowledgement. And we love that you're chiming in from where you are. And with that, Dawn, I think we're going to jump into some norms for this session today. If you've been with us before, you've heard this, but with 61 people here, it's possible that you weren't in our session yesterday.
That's awesome. Hey, Deborah, before we go to that, did you put our today's handouts in the chat yet?
I did, but how about if I put it in again while you get us talking about the norms?
That would be great.
Perfect.
So we know that this is a webinar styled event, but yet we still want to have a lot of participation. So you'll see that's big and bold and bright. So what we're going to be using today is the chat. We're not going to be using a poll. We're not going to use question and answer. So we would love to have you chat it up and just keep the conversation going. We really would like that. We also, just as we had an internet glitch, we started off being on here at 11:30 and 5 to 12, my whole power in my house went out. So we do appreciate that grace of kind of allowing me to come back in and just kind of starting in where we are. So thank you for that grace. We also want to show grace with one another and also be willing to try different things as we go through our day. So with that, those are our norms. And then Deborah and I have been doing this work quite a bit. And as we have been growing our knowledge, we find that the things that we do in our presentation really revolve around what we call these core beliefs. And here's our first core belief, is that fluency should never be based on how fast somebody responds. We want kids to feel like they're valued, and we want kids to feel like they have important thoughts. And some people need to think through things a little more than others. And we don't want to negate the idea that just because somebody answers fast, they're a stronger math person. So that's really, really important to us. And so you'll see a lot of times we'll ask for you to wait before you respond, because we want to give everybody that chance to think things through. Another thing that we really want to think about is providing different activities and different games, routines that really develop everybody's math confidence and what we call perseverance and grit. We know that as adult learners, Deborah and I have been on this journey for many years, and we've learned a lot over the years. And that's because we've had that chance to be in that space where we are given something and we have to think it through. We have to do some persevering. If answers come quickly to us, we're really not learning or developing anything. So we really think that that idea of developing those types of activities gives us that opportunity to develop more math confidence and be able to feel okay about persevering and developing that grit through what we do. Lastly, we're going to be playing games today. And so really we want to really think about when we are playing games, and you'll see a video later today from Dan Finkel, who really does shine a nice light on this, but we really want math to be the forefront. We don't want to have a little electronic things that are buzzing away and then we have to answer some math problems, because math is not the center. We want math to be the center of what we're doing. And the other thing is we want to have games, we strive to have games where kids have some choice, either in how they play the game or how they respond in the game. And that idea of choice allows kids to be in the games longer. We also want to have a game that's really quick to get into, learn, get playing. And if I lose my first couple times, I think about, okay, well, that didn't go so well for me. So how can I take that like thing that I didn't do correctly and really turn it around so I can be more proficient at it? And so really everything that we're talking about is kind of wrapped around these three big ideas. Deborah, anything I missed here?
No, I just want to do one thing right now, Dawn. I think it makes sense because I'm trying to watch the chat and everything. So one of the things that Dawn and I do, and she did a really good job of laying out our core beliefs. Another thing that we do in every session we facilitate is we give you a hyperdoc, it's called. And Dawn, I'm wondering, is it going to be easy for you to show that? I have posted it a bunch of times, but it's sometimes super helpful, that visual, to see what we're actually talking about. So I see that Dawn is sharing our hyperdoc. And Dawn, I see, and you and I are really good at this. Thank you. That makes it readable. This goes literally in the order we're going to go in today. So Dawn's scrolling through that, and as we go through our presentation, you will see a visual, and then to the right, there's maybe a little descriptor, plus it's hot linked to where these free things are. So we just want you to know. Now, another thing you may not know about Hopin, you can actually scroll back in the chat. Dawn and I will keep putting the hyperdoc in there. You're going to want to make yourself, you're in Google, I hope, on Chrome, file, make a copy of this hyperdoc and save it. You got it forever and the links to it. Thanks, Dawn.
Perfect.
Just wanted to call that out. We've always gotten really good feedback that our participants love that.
Nice. So every time I stop this presentation, I have to redo the captions. So just remind me. So I know that does make it easier for some people.
We won't keep stopping our share. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We toggle back and forth, and so that's an okay thing. Today we want to think about. We're going to be digging into some essential ideas of how math fact fluency develops over time, how we acquire those facts and really retain those facts. We're going to be involved with many games today. That's kind of the focus of it. But we're also going to add some other activities in there as well to really think about how we can support math fact acquisition and retention. And then think about, which facts do I start with? Where do I start when I'm want my kids to learn all their math facts from 0 to 20, or all their multiplication facts? What should I be teaching first? What should I be teaching second? What should I be teaching after that? So we're going to be diving into that as well today. So with that, we want to warm up your math brains. Isn't that right, Deborah?
Yes, we do. Thanks, Dawn. And with that, I think we're going on to the next slide. So I want you to take a minute and please take your fingers off the button that hits enter. So we don't need the answers right now. Hands up, folks. Okay. And we just challenge you to think about looking at those pictures, A, B, C, and D, and decide which one of those pictures doesn't belong and why. Again, don't hit enter. You could type in an answer, but I'm inviting you to hold on to that for just a minute. We're going to give you a quiet minute to do that. If you find one that doesn't belong, see if there might be another one.
You mean, Deborah, there's more than one answer?
Could be.
All right, awesome. Hmm.
So I am going to invite you now to go ahead, and if you've decided which one doesn't belong and a reason why, I'm going to invite you to hit enter and then take a minute to see what other people say, because the first two that are entered are not the same. And that is by design. Okay, there's a lot of B's. Okay.
I also saw a C, and I wonder that
Right.
was a good one too. There's a good reason for that as well.
So B, the only one with three colors. Okay, that's true. But B has three parts. Got it. Are there any other, okay, C, I'm just wondering that. It says C is a square and the others are rectangles. Fair enough.
I love that.
Okay.
It's the only one broken up into squares. Awesome. Okay.
I also have a D and an A. Did you get that? Yeah, that's the only one broken up into squares. So it's really fascinating to use this opening routine, which one doesn't belong, with any group of people you're in. And one of the things that it brings out is that there's more than one way to see things initially and to create visuals that might have the same answer, ultimately the same value, but there's a very different visual involved. That's really important in our work moving forward. We did a session yesterday, and one of the questions that came up, and it was the foundation of this same math fact fluency. But the question that came up repeatedly was about visuals. So we built this into today's session based on the feedback. Dawn, do you want to add anything to that?
Um, we also taught another session today where we had a life skills teacher, and she was saying that her students needed to be visual or have visual learning, and we were really thinking about Joe Bowler, who wrote Mathematical Mindsets, would push back on that idea a little bit and saying that all people learn visually. And it's that visual imprint that's going to last longer in a student's brain than something more abstract. So you're going to see some visuals along with what we're doing with games today, and that's intentional to get you to start thinking about, when we're acquiring those math facts, how we can use those visual representations. The other thing I'd like to add on, Deborah, is a task like this. You did a nice job of describing that, but it also has what we call that low floor, high ceiling, where it really provides an entry point for any student or any math learner to make an observation and share their thinking. Some people might get into factors, somebody might get into odd and even numbers. Some students are just focused on colors and shapes. And so there's enough space in there to allow all learners to share their ideas, which builds that confidence in our math thinking.
And Dawn, I'm going to add on to that now, because what you eloquently brought up, often we hear people say, oh, and we heard this morning, my kids that are in life skills with me that struggle need the visuals. And we often talk about that is true. Okay. We all, and you already said this, we're all visual learners, but we often hear is that the quick calculators, kids who may present initially as the high flyers, they need that visual too. So that we're ensuring that they're not just simply calculating and not seeing and not missing the part where they know what's going on with the numbers. So thanks for bringing that up. And that, I think, might be the segue into this session is really, really founded on the book, Math Fact Fluency, 60 Plus Games, one of our foundational books that we use in the work that we do now. And this book really just highlights, and we dug into this in yesterday's session. If you were there, great. If you didn't, there's going to be a recording of it. It talks about the 5 fundamentals, and that is mastery must focus on fluency. Fluency develops in 3 phases. We went through the 3 phases yesterday, which is counting, deriving, and mastery. Foundational facts must precede derived facts. And Dawn, I noticed that that one is bolded, so I know we're focusing on that one today.
That's right.
I see that time tests do not assess fluency. And although we won't be digging deeply into that today, it is included in the book. And then our 5th and final fundamental is that students need substantial and enjoyable practice. And I know that we are really focused on substantial and enjoyable practice with all of our games and quick looks that we're sharing today, right?
That's right. So we want to definitely highlight that. So
Yep.
Here we go, Deborah. You ready?
Yep, I am.
Okay.
So this is something, I hope your screen is big enough that you can see it. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Please respond in the chat. What do you notice in those 2 charts below?
So Deborah, if I heard you right, we're just noticing things right now. We're not answering or asking questions. We're just noticing. Right.
Just
Okay.
noticing. And start any time with anything you notice. Doesn't have to be a waterfall chat. Anything that you notice. Either the chart on the left or the right. Ooh.
Overlapping arrows. Yes, there are a lot of arrows. And you start noticing where those arrows are going. Great. It looks like a flow chart. Oh, I love that, Christina.
Fluency strategies are listed on both sides.
Right. It's a lot in one space. Yeah, you have to follow around and there's a lot of information there. You can spend a lot of time really thinking about this.
Mm-hmm. And you know,
oh, look at Suzanne's. I love that. Both strategies begin with 0, 1, 2, 5, and 10. Oh, I'm going to so steal your idea, Suzanne.
So somebody brought up that looking at this gives them a little bit of a, okay, I got to think about this. You know what? This document is linked on your HyperDoc. You can come back to it. So you can just sit and listen and breathe right now if that's what you need to, because this is either brand new to you, you've seen it before, but you haven't really dug into it. But we have some people who are really fluent with this chart because they've been to some workshops that Dawn and I have done on this. So somebody brought up a really good they saw on the left hand side, I see there's a top and it says plus and minus 0, 1, and 2. I see that there are some things underneath that. I see that on the far right, Dawn, of both of those charts, at the top it says foundational fact sets, and below it, where it's not in bold, derived fact sets. And Michelle made a really good point. She said, somebody was here yesterday, they felt the same way yesterday, but once you have a little bit of time, it starts sinking in. So thanks, Michelle, for sharing that, because it is true. The first time you see it, it's like, whoa. And then after you have a little time, it marinates and it makes sense. So, Dawn, should we move on?
I think we should ask, I think because we didn't have them ask any questions.
Okay.
I wonder if there are any questions out there.
All righty.
Feel free to populate those now. You don't have to wait. Just type it in and hit enter. Any questions? Because I think there might be.
Oh, I don't know what break apart means. That's awesome, Lynn. Thanks for sharing.
We're going to cover that today.
Uh-huh. I think we kind of did in our which one doesn't belong.
Well, I wondered why there are 2 charts. They have some information, and that's great. I'm actually going to say something here. One of them has to do with addition, subtraction. The other one has to do with multiplication. And I wonder if those 2 words, or those 2 ideas of addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, helps you to make sense of the charts a little bit more now. That's what I was thinking. I wondered about that.
Yep.
Good. But I loved Suzanne's where she was like, there's a lot of similarities between the two charts because there is. And that's what's so cool about the progression of facts. And these charts actually do show the progression of math fact acquisition, both in addition and subtraction, and with multiplication and division. And those arrows do become kind of important at that point.
So, Dawn, there's just one last thing that I'd add to that. And then we'll come back to a near square, Monica, okay? But let's just call it out. The one on the left is addition and subtraction, facts, and the one on the right is multiplication and division. People have noticed that. Thanks for calling it out. Monica asked about near squares. So I'm thinking it's okay for us to say, you and I have had a lot of experience and we've had a lot of growth, and we know what square numbers are now. And those are numbers when we multiply, for example, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5. And the reason that those are called square numbers is when you build a model of that using actual physical items like square tiles, when you lay those out on a 5 by 5 array or a 3 by 3, 2 by 2, 9 by 9, doesn't matter. It literally builds a square. Your array is not a rectangle, but a square. So a near square is a number near a square number, but not quite a square number.
So instead of 6 times 6, maybe 6 times 6 would be a square number. 6 times 7 would be a near square. So you could take that grouping and just add another group, because I know 6 times 6. If I want to know 6 times 7, I just add 6 more on there because it's one more group. So we say, got it. Yes. Great. Okay, so ready to go on, Deborah?
Yes, I think we are ready to go to Dawn. I think you're going to tell us something about the whole story, right?
So before we just pop into a game to support different strategies, we want to recognize that in our book, there's kind of a recipe, and that's why the recipe card is there. It's a help for us to remember that there's this recipe that we follow, but it's also that just great visual for you to know that there's kind of like once you've done the recipe once, it becomes easy because it's the same thing over and over. But when a new strategy is introduced in the book, there's a rationale or a reason of when and why this particular strategy is taught. And so the first one with addition and subtraction is counting on, like counting 0, 1, or 2, either plus or minus. And that's because kids use that counting strategy. Like if I have 5 and 1 more, I'm using my counting skills and going 5, 6. And so that's why it's first. And so the book would share that information with you. Along with that, they also provide the idea that instead of saving story problems to the end of developing a strategy, we put that right out at the beginning so that kids can visualize the situation in their head. So like if I have 8 apples and my friend gives me 1 more, can you visualize that I'm being given something and I have 1 more than 8? And that's what we want kids to do. We want them to build that mental picture. So we do that. We also include what we call quick looks that support the strategy. And you'll see an example of that here in a minute. But we want to use those visual clues so that when kids see something, then they can like apply it when they're playing games. They can start to see those visuals in their heads as well. So we have a couple of examples for you here. And let me just hit click. So if I were working with doubles, my story problem might be something like this. Grandma gave me 3 cookies and my friend came over and gave my friend 3 cookies. So how many cookies are there altogether? So I'm using a context. I could also develop some quick looks that show that doubling kind of situation. So you can see it on a 10 frame, you can see it on a Rec and Rec. And we also have, there are some commercially bought things that you can get. This is a tiny polka dot card that also shows that visual representation of 3 and 3 with 3 blues and 3 greens. So if I know one quantity, I can quickly just double that and see that. So that's what that's part of that recipe that we would introduce what's the reason for the strategy, a scenario, a quick look, and then once kids are kind of grounded in that, that's where we go to the games. So here we go with our first game, Deborah.
Okay.
And so this is called Doubles Bingo. And so just like if you were with us yesterday, you got to choose a team. And on this, I'm going to go to a Jamboard. And we will show you where these Jamboards live because they're, oops, I think they're already done. And all you have to do is make your own copy and they're good to go. You can use them with your own kids. So we'll show you where that site lives in a minute, but all of these things are free and they're available to you. You're not going to get them from us. You're going to get them from the source of where this came from. So on a Jamboard, we have our slides, and on our first slide, there are the directions. And we're actually going to go to slide 2, and I'm going to duplicate this because I want to have one that I can just kind of throw away later. So Deborah, here we go.
So Dawn, I see on my screen that you're on slide 3. So I have navigated there as well. So I see that you are naming yourself. Whoops. I made mine crazy. Sorry. Guess it's going to stay that way. Oh, it's even getting crazier. There we go. Now I'll put my name in there. Maybe. Or I'll just leave it.
Okay. All right. So in this thing, we're supporting that idea. It's called Doubles Bingo. So it says right here, I'm going to click right here and delete the top card. And Deborah, do you want to, here, flip a coin. Are you going first or second?
I'm going second.
Okay. So I'm going to delete this, my little things here, delete it, 10. Ooh. So I can take my, let's see, 10 plus 10 is 20. So I'm going to put my thing over there.
Okay.
Yeah, your turn.
Okay, my turn. So I go to the 3 dots and I'm going to hit delete, right?
Right.
On the Jamboard. So I deleted it and Dawn, my 9 came up. So right. Let's see. I'm going to use this strategy, pretend a 10. I hate doing 9s. So I'm going to think 10 plus 10 is 20, but I added 2 too many. So I'm going to track those off. 18. And now I got to figure out there's more than one 18. So I guess, man, I have to use the red ones today, but I picked them. So there you go. Okay, Dawn, your turn.
And a couple more turns. Delete this. You can see it when I'm doing it. You can't see it when Deborah's doing it. So I have a 0. 0 plus 0. Can I see some 10 frames in my head where there's nothing in this one? So that means there's nothing in this one. So I think 0 plus 0 is 0. So I think I only have one choice. I'm going to move it up here.
All right.
Hope that you're hearing, and it sounds so condescending, and I'm really sorry about that. But what we're trying to do is to really share that we want kids using their strategies and talking out loud as they're playing. So it's not okay just to move it to 0 if they know it. We want kids to use those verbal skills.
And that's one of the norms that we have in our teaching and in our classrooms, right, Dawn? I mean, it isn't just for games. We just do that. So I'm going to ask all of our participants, there's 70 of them, what would be a really good number? When I delete that 0 and I'm already on 18, what number are you hoping I might get? Type it in the chat quickly before I delete my card. Ooh.
Okay. 5.
Got some people. Yeah, I'm trying to be strategic. Here we go. I'm going to delete, and we'll see what comes.
Get 10.
What?
I'm hoping you get 10.
Yeah, Dawn always hopes I don't win. Ooh, I got 2. So You know that I know my strategies. We're going to skip that step right now. If I got a 2 and it's doubles bingo, I have to multiply it by 2, and that gives me a 4. So I only see 1 4, and it just happens to land in that same row. There you go.
Well, I can see that Elizabeth's on my team because she wanted the 10 as well. And I love what Frank said, use partners. And yes, we really encourage 2 against 2 because then you have to have a discussion. And like Deborah and I are bantering back and forth. If you had 2 against 2, they could talk with each other about what their strategy and what their hopes are for the next one.
And that also supports SEL skills. Come on, social emotional learning. They're learning how to play a game together.
All right, so I have 5. Ooh, 5 and 5. I think that's 10. So I think I'll go here. So we get the idea of the game, don't we, Deborah?
Yeah, I think we do. So we can move on because we want to go through as many games as possible today.
Before I go on, I want to show this frame because at the end of this, the first ones were pre-populated, which are awesome just to get your kids to play. But then, now this is where we get a little bit more choice in the game, where kids are putting the numbers. They can take a digit here and they can duplicate it, and it has it in the directions, duplicate it, and then move it to the spot where they want it. And that's really cool. I played this in a room with first graders, and they knew their doubles up to 12 really well because they played dice games. But after 12, those little darlings didn't know 7 plus 7. They didn't know 8 plus 8. So we really had to practice with that and really think about adding those numbers in after they learned the game. So you know your kids, you know how this works. So, and you can even make these numbers bigger numbers. Like I can make them 16 if I'm working in middle school, then all of a sudden it's a different game. So it's that idea of choice. All right, back to here, Deborah. Let's see, present. By the end of the presentation, I won't be talking to myself quite so much. We'll turn the captions back on.
It's okay, Dawn, you're doing a great job.
Okay, we want you to think about the game is fun for kids, but we want this to be more of a learning situation for us as math educators and for our students as well. So first off, does this game support addition and subtraction or multiplication and division? Put it in the chat. How would you answer this question? Oh, Michelle, you stole my thunder. Yes, both. And so really on the website, this one actually says it supports both. You know, if you're working with multiplication, you can just double it using multiplication skills, or you can use addition subtraction. That one was too easy. Okay, so question number 2, is this foundational or is this a derived? Are these the first facts that we need to learn, or are they the more sophisticated ones? So which one is this? Is it foundational or derived? And there's only one answer for this one. Yes, they're getting it. I see it on the screen. I see it in the chat. They got it.
Yep. They're looking at that chart on the right and they see those 2s.
Yeah. And I was sharing with some middle school teachers, it is just important for kids to be able to double any number, even 5.7 or 5 7/10. Can I double that? So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Doubling decimals, percent, doubling in itself, doubling and halving is a huge strategy. Go ahead, Doc.
Good. Okay. So what facts would students need to be familiar with and have had to have some practice prior to playing this game? So look at your arrows. That'll help. And look at the addition or the top one. What would this be the first strategy I taught?
Gosh.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Or Deborah, do you want to answer that? Would this be the first game that I taught?
Okay, if I'm working on addition and subtraction, I see she just typed what I was thinking in the chat. I need to be able to add and subtract 0, 1, and 2 before I am thinking about my doubles in addition.
But if
Yeah.
I'm doing multiplication, it might be one of the very first ones that I start with. I don't start with the 0, I don't start with 1, I start with 2s because it does match that doubling that kids have had so much experience with for multiplication.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we also want you to think about this way. Once kids get really good at this, what would be the next step? What would be the next thing that I would want to maybe do? So there's some different choices here. So if I'm adding, I could do near doubles, but I would want to get my kids really familiar with doubles first and maybe work on combinations of 10 first, and then maybe go into near doubles. And if I were working in multiplication, I was guilty of this. I started with the zeros. Everybody did their little thing, filled in the chart. And we went to ones and we went to twos. No more. Start with twos. My next one would be going to fives. So that would be a good one. If I did know my twos, then I see what Jennifer is saying. I could do my fours, which is a double double. So if I know 2 times 7, and then I double it again, then really what I have is my 4 times 7, or 28. So you're right. We want you to think along these lines of, once kids get that strategy, what instructionally is my next move? Where do I go after I do this one? Which is the art of teaching. That's why teaching is so difficult. Deborah, what else can you add on to that?
You know,
For the heart. Love that.
yeah. It's so critical to think about this suggested progression and the way it really helps our kids develop a number sense and a deeper and richer than focusing on a procedure and calculating. And I think with that, Dawn, we've gone through one of the strategies pretty darn thoroughly, don't you think? I heard you do a rationale, a context, a quick look, and we did a game. And then we debriefed. We called out what it was. So is this where we're ready to?
We're going to just go super fast. So ready? Go.
So I want you to close your eyes. We're thinking about visuals. Please close your eyes. Okay? I'm going to read to you, and I want you to imagine this situation. Okay? Imagine it as deeply as you can. You're walking through the grocery store, and there's an overpowering smell of fresh donuts. And as I walk in front of the donut case, I notice that there are 5 sheets of donuts, and on each sheet, there are 8 donuts on them. Let me repeat that. I stroll in front of the donut case, and I notice that there's 5 sheets through that glass or plexiglass. There's 5 sheets, and each sheet has 8 donuts on them. They don't overfill them because they don't want to get it. You know what I'm going to ask now. Who has a really clear visual of what's going on with the number of donuts? And I'll bet you could populate right now a total number. Go ahead and do that. Enter it in the chat. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah.
You all got it because you've connected. Christina, thanks. You actually listened to the 5 sheets, and I'm sure everybody did too. You just included it in the chat. So you were thinking about 5 times 8. And that's one way, Dawn and I brought out the importance of visuals. And I think, Dawn, on our next slide, there's another way that we want our participants to think about a different way. This time you're going to keep your eyes open, and we're going to ask you how many. So, Dawn, do you want to click? And this isn't a quick click because this is you and I, right? So again, the question is how many? And Dawn, I want to ask you exactly how you are first seeing this. And can you explain how many and how you knew it was that many?
Well, the first thing I see is actually 7. I see 7 circles, and I see a dice array of 5 and then 2 more. That's what I first saw.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw it just a little bit differently.
How'd you see it?
I think I did see the 7 circles, but almost instantaneously, I saw 2 horizontal rows of 3.
Oh,
So that means I saw 30 and I added that extra 5 in.
nice. Well,
So
I'm sorry I'm not paying attention to you, Deborah, because I'm watching the chat come
I know,
in. It's so cool.
I know. And people are starting to see how they broke it down. They used partial products, right? They were breaking it down and adding those numbers back together. So that's awesome. On the slide deck, which is linked on your HyperDoc, I see that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a graphic there with an arrow, and that means that we have embedded a video for you with a mathematician that Dawn and I love. His name is Graham Fletcher, and this visual comes from one of his subitizing cards, okay? And there's a video of Graham using the subitizing cards with his daughter. I encourage you, watch that video, check out these subitizing cards. Oh, they're all linked on the HyperDoc, which is now pinned at the top of the chat. So you can go there anytime. It's on the top of all of our chat. They're just awesome. And it's another way to have a visual connection. So
Right. So I think about back in the day when I had the 7 times 5 and the kids would go, and see
Yeah.
who can count up fastest on their hands to get the answer.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do it that way anymore. I would show these visually and then maybe perhaps put the 7 times 5 next to it, because you guys are already seeing that this is 5 times 5 plus 2 times 5, which is a much more flexible way of thinking about this. So we're going to move on, right, Deborah? But we've done a context, we've done a
Sure.
quick look, and now what are we going to do?
We're going to do a game, right?
Oh,
We did it quicker this time.
all right. So
Right?
this is also a free one that you can get, and we'll show you where this comes from shortly. But they all come with these pre-populated Jamboards that are already made. They're awesome, so you can use them.
Yep.
They're free. They force you to make a copy so that you can have your own copy. So we're going to go to that right now. And Deborah,
while you're going there, I'm gonna tell us that on slide 1 are the directions where we're gonna roll a die. You could use this if you're playing in person, cards, dice, but we're gonna multiply the number by 5, and then we're gonna place a counter in that square, right, Dawn?
that's right.
And then this time, I notice this game is called trios. So you and I are going to try and play 3 in a row, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, and we score 5 points for each trio we get on our card. Right?
I think that you're going to see only one square.
Okay.
And so I'm going to, again, duplicate this so I have a clean copy of it and I can throw it away later. So my internet's running a little slowly. Sorry.
That's okay.
I
And
think it had something to do with my meltdown at 11:55. Okay, it's not going to work, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. I'll figure it out.
that's okay. I'm on slide 2. Are you?
I am, and I can tell on my frame right here I'm on 2. So
Yes. And this is going to have additional frames too, but we're going to start out on frame 2. And Dawn, can you be player 1 and I'll be player 2?
yep, can do that. I get the red chips this time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So remember, we were going to roll a die. So go ahead and roll the die, Dawn.
Well,
And then you're going to multiply by 5. Whoop.
Delete. And I rolled a 6. So I'm multiplying everything times 5. So I know 5 times 6 is 30. So I know that. So, oops. Oh, I know what I have to do. Sometimes this happens, but there's a fix. You just go to order and you send this one to the back. Now you can see my chips. All right.
There you go.
All right,
Okay.
Deborah, your turn.
So now I'm on there and I have to click delete on that 6 and I'm doing it and I got a 4. And again, I love the sticky note that's at the top. I know, I can't forget, I have to multiply times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. And I see that I have more than one choice. And I think, I have 3 choices exactly. I think I'm going to choose this one right here, Dawn, and you saw me move it. So your turn.
Okay. I didn't realize I failed. Okay, I'm going to lose this. I just know it because I trapped myself in the corner. I didn't even think. I was so involved with just the multiplying. I didn't even think that I have some strategy of where I'm going to put it. So I don't have many choices here. Let's see.
Dawn, I'm going to tell you something.
Look. Yes.
Here's what I know as a teacher and an educator. I can't rob you of that. I had to stop myself from saying, are you sure you don't want to put it somewhere else? I need to stop you from that. So you have that authentic learning. That's awesome.
Yeah, we call it win or learn, not win or lose. So I learned from my mistakes. So I'm going to delete this card and I get a 0. Oh, but it worked out okay for Dawn. Okay, your turn, Deborah.
Okay, I'm going to delete a card. And I got a 5, and I multiplied times 5, and that means I get a 25.
Dang it. It's a good thing this is a rated T kind of presentation.
Yep.
Well, you just blocked me because 2 people can't occupy the same space. So how much longer do you want to play, Deborah?
Let's go one more round.
Okay.
And here's what I want to know in the chat. What are people hoping? Oh, you already did it. Go ahead.
Ooh, well, at least I can maybe block you a little bit here. 8 times 5 is 40.
There's a question in the chat. Can you bump players? No, you can't. But remember, there's choice on down the road. We're showing you the initial way to play this. I'm going to delete my card. I got a 4. And I know that 4 times 5, oh, I got a 20 again. I wonder what would be my best move.
Hey, Deborah, can we just, for kicks and giggles, do something? I just want to move along. So let's say Deborah wants to put one here on a 5. She would get 3 in a row. She'd get a point for that. And if the game continues and she does something like this, then she can use one of the numbers more than one time to get a second trio. So the idea of trios are that you're going to get 3 in a row and you're going to get a point for every group of 3 that you have with one overlap.
Yes, with one overlap allowed. And Dawn, this might be a good time to show them the other, aren't there other game boards at the top? At least
so like if I scroll through here, I'll scroll through the other way here. This one's multiplied by 6. By 7, by 8, by 9, a blank one that kids can populate, and I think that's just an extra screen. So there's some choice there.
So we have one question in the chat, and the question is, would we want to do this with partners also? You certainly could, especially when you're first learning the game, because it forces people to be thinking about and talking about their strategies. What might be move.
Right, so I'm going to show you guys where to find all this. On that HyperDoc, what I selected was the companion site for MathFact Fluency. And when I get there, there are games and there are assessments. So when I hit the games tab, we just played trios, which is I think down here. It's a multiplication game. And it allows me to download the Jamboards. It also has teacher directions, student directions. So this is one of the reasons we wanted to show you these particular games, because all these lovely resources are here. So again, if I go back to games, look at all the games that you have available, free to use. The Jamboards, they do force a copy, so you get your own, and it goes into your Google Classroom.
Yep.
So great resource, and again, it's right here. Companion site for MathFact Fluency.
Yep.
So we want you to walk away with some of these games already done. You know, and my idea is you duplicate a slide and then just delete the one that you kind of populate, because then it's easier the next time. You don't have to clean it up. You just toss it and duplicate and toss.
So what I just heard you say as a teacher, Dawn, is if I wanted I make the forced copy and I want to actually use this with my students, I could go to slide 2 and duplicate it and play on it and then delete it so I still have the original slide 2 as a clean copy that we always work from. Dawn and I are always about making this as easy for ourselves as we can because none of us has extra time. So with that, Dawn, can you talk through our debriefing? Because I have construction going on and they're trying to get my attention.
That is great. So instead of bringing these all in at once, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So this happens to be a game we kind of like already shared that. It was a multiplication game. Would this be foundational or derived? And what I'm going to be looking at is my multiplication one here. And if I'm working on 5s, that's definitely foundational. That's something that I want to have my kids really well grounded in 5. Because when I start getting to some of these others, like the 3s, the 6s, the 4s, we have to have a solidness of 5 because we might take away a group or we might add a group, or we're going to do decompositions like we saw with the which one doesn't belong before, where we break those rectangles up into 2 different parts. Having those 5s really, really solid is important. So it kind of comes after the 10s. So then we're working on 5s. So that's what we would do before. And I think I kind of just shared after, if my kids were getting good at 5s, I would spend a little time on 1s and 0s, not very much time. But kids confuse multiplying 1s and 0s with adding 1s and 0s. So 1 times 1 becomes 2, but no, one group of 1 is only 1. And so kids misapply that rule. So you want to spend a little time on that. You don't have to spend tons. Also the idea of zeros, like anything times 0 is 0. Well, that's not good enough. Let's say I tell this story. I go to the mailbox on Monday, there's no mail. I go to the mailbox on Tuesday, no mail. I go to the mailbox the rest of the week, no mail. I've gone to the mailbox 7 days. 7 times nothing is still nothing. And that's why that context is really important. So kids understand that idea of multiplying by 0, because we shortcut that too much. That would be kind of my next step in that evolution. But eventually we want kids to use that 5 strategy. So if I don't know 8 times 7, I know 8 times 5 and 2 times 5. And I put that together and I can come up with an answer to that. So Deborah, anything you want to add on to that? You're muted.
I have construction going on at my house, so if I have to mute, Dawn knows. And I'm sure some of you have had that happen in the past. Let's move on to, I think our next thing is a video. And it comes from a good friend and a colleague, which we love his work. Go ahead, Dawn, tell him a little bit about it. And let's get started with the next game because I am watching the clock. Yeah. And I know you and I could go on about fact fluency forever, but we don't have forever.
No problems. Well, we brought this in because there's a lot of good games out there, but there's also a lot of poor games out there. And we've showed this video before, and we've had participants say, after seeing Dan's video, I am a better consumer of what games I want my kids to play because of his words. So we're gonna, Dan, he has the Math for Love company, he and his wife, amazing mathematician. So we're gonna hear from Dan. Deborah, you're gonna give me a thumbs up if the sound is coming through.
Hi, I'm Dan Finkel, and I'm a math educator. So I am a mathematical game designer. That's one of the things I do. And the way I got into that was I built a lot of games to be used in the classroom. And I would like to share my top 3 main fundamental points about using mathematical games in the classroom. So here they are. Number 1, choice needs to be a part of the game. And this is really a failure of so many standard textbooks for kids of any age. They say, okay, here's the game, you roll this die, then you write down what you get, then you add these things up, and then whoever gets the highest amount wins, and there's no choices to make. And that might be more fun than a lot of normal lessons, but it's missing a huge opportunity. Because first of all, kids will get tired of games where there's no choices way faster than games where there are choices. Second of all, there's no strategy. And as soon as you have a choice, there's a question, which is, did you make the right choice? Would this have been a better choice? You can start having questions about the strategy of the game, and these become a great opportunity for mathematical richness to enter the classroom. So look for games with choice and really emphasize that choice and ask kids about why they made the choices they made. This is just using what games have to offer in a way that supports mathematical thinking in the classroom. So that's one, choice. Number two, math should be the engine of the game. And here the biggest culprit is online games, flash games, computer games. When they are trying to use math, it is the classic way they do it is you're flying a little airplane, you're having a great time, and then something happens, it stops, you're running out of fuel, and you need to solve this math problem in order to get past it. And literally what that is teaching is the game stops, the fun stops, mathematics is the money you need to put into the video game machine to make it keep going again. It is the suffering, it is the work you have to do so you can have fun. And that's just not the lesson we want to teach about mathematics. Playing games where math is actually an element of the game, or ideally the engine of the game, that teaches a different lesson, where the better you get at the math, the better you get at the game. The more you see, the more options you have, the more powerful you get at the game. And what we ideally want people to see, and this is true about the world, is if you really know math, it's almost like you're cheating. You just know too much, you can win in a game. So that's two. Math should be the engine of the game. And number three, it should be simple to use and quick to play. And that's just because as a teacher, you got to get in there and it can't be long. I love the game Cribbage, great game. I've never used it in the classroom because there's just too many little strange rules. Great math game. So those are my three rules. Number one, the game should have choice. Number two, math should be the engine of the game. Number three, it should be simple to learn and quick to play. Look for that when you play games in the classroom, and you will see what they can do to transform the way your students respond to mathematics.
Thanks so much for allowing us that little opportunity to listen to Dan. I look at games so much differently now. I think a lot of math games that I see are basically electronic worksheets where we just fill something out or we're pushing buttons, and it's lacking choice, it's lacking strategy, it's really lacking some of the things that we want out of a game. Deborah put it best one day when she said, we're looking at choice versus chance. Like there are a lot of games where it's chance I might win, but we're really looking at, is there a choice for kids to be able to be strategic in their thinking? Deborah, anything you want to add on to that?
No, I just think what we hear consistently, we have had thousands, literally at this point, of teachers join us in our full-on course of Math Fact Fluency, and they talk about two things. The graphic that they didn't know they weren't supposed to start with ones, twos, threes, fours, fives. And they also didn't realize that games can be, more strategy versus less strategy.
Nice, thank you. All right, so this is also, I think, linked on your thing, on your HyperDoc. Please share it with others. This was a real big aha for me, and we want to spread this widely, so please do so. And it's short, it's only 3 minutes. It's great. All right, so with that, we're gonna play, it's kind of a game, but it's more of kind of this idea of thinking things through. So this is called Strive to Derive. And again, it's another Jamboard that's on that site. So we're gonna go to that. Deborah, before I go to that, I'm gonna close the old one so that I have more bandwidth.
And
go.
I'm just going to call this out. We're going to, I think, run out of time for our last game, and that's okay.
That's okay. We're going to go through this one quickly because again, it's got some elements of a game, but it's more of a kind of a way to really think things through. So in this game, The first player would select one for their partner. And so, Deborah, I'm going to choose for you 6 times 6. And then what you need to do, Deborah, is to go over and get the pen tool and somehow break this apart into 2 different rectangles. And then think about how you could describe to me how you would solve it by breaking it apart. So Deborah's muted, so I think she's grabbing the pen tool. We do this, we think for each other. She's breaking it apart. I wonder if she could put some numbers at the top so we know the value of her broken pieces. So we have 6 times 5 plus 6 times 1. I wonder what the value of 6 times 5 is, Deborah. I'm thinking 6 times 5. 6 times 5. Oh, see the eraser tool going. I think she's realized. Oh, yes, there we go. So we have that 36. So she would get a point because she was going to describe, she's going to break that. And 6 times 6 is actually a square number. And some people might just say it's a square number. And I know that my squares are this. So she would get points for that. So we're going to erase her work here. Nice job. Oops, that's the wrong button, Dawn. I'm going to do Control Z, get rid of that. All right. So, and then she would get a point. So I would put a point over there for her. And in the next one, she's going to choose one for me to break apart. So when this comes off, we can make this smaller. This is just great practice. And people have asked, can you just do these with cards rather than on the Jamboard? Absolutely, it'd make it a whole lot easier, but we're in this electronic environment. We have to use one. So Deborah, do you have one for me?
I do, and I'm going to choose because I'm going to push this button a little bit. Okay, I'm thinking of our teachers that have kids who are a little more advanced. And so, Dawn, go for it. 6 times 12.
Ooh, wow. How could I break that apart? So first off, I'm going to make it a smidge bigger, which you can do on Jamboard, which is lovely. I can make that bigger. And I'm going to get my pen tool. I'll make it, oh, let's make it red. I love red. So I know that if this is 12 going across, that I'm going to put my partition here. That would make this 10 and 2, which is kind of the same thing as 10 plus 2.
Uh-huh.
And I know that the value of this is going to be 60 and this is going to be 12. So in total, I think I have 6 times 12 is 72.
So Dawn, what you did so eloquently was decompose that, but also you went over and you saw those tools that are on the left-hand side. You chose the pen at the top and changed the color. The next tool was the eraser, and then we clicked back on the arrow, right, to make this happen. This is a fun thing to play around on. They're the same tools as Jamboard, right? And it just allows us to interact a little bit differently.
Right. And we really, and you're going to see the next slide, and we've kind of talked through it, but this really is one of those multiplication derived facts where kids, after they know their 2s, their 5s, their 10s, their 1s, their 0s, and their squares, how can I break it apart so that I learn those ones that are left over? And again, with the Jamboard, you have different opportunities. Like you have your 9s and you have your 7s and you have your 6s and so on. So there's a whole bunch of ones that you can choose from. So with that, we're going to skip this next slide, Deborah, and I think we're going to go right to Lucky 13, if that's okay.
That is fine because the games are where it's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game called Lucky 13. We're just going to play right on the slide because it's a quick game to show you, and it's linked on your HyperDoc. So and it's a forced copy, so you could have it to take home today. So each player's going to turn over 4 cards, and I see that Dawn is clicking on that random card organizer again. I know she's going to select to keep out the kings and the jacks again, and I know she's going to select for us to each have 4 cards. Now here's the deal this time. We are going to use addition or subtraction. We want to get as close to 13. 13 is our target number. So we want to get as close to 13, and then our score is the difference between lucky 13 and what we actually have on our cards. Now let's remember, a queen is a 0, an ace is a 1. And is that my cards, Dawn, if I go first?
Mhm.
Okay, so I got really lucky this time. I see, Dawn, that there's a 7 and a 6. And because I know my doubles, I know that 6 and 6, or 6 times 2, is 12, and 1 more is 13. So I actually got exactly 13. So my score is 0. And I just entered that on our slide. So your turn.
Okay, my turn. All right. So I am going to add 5 and 6. I know 5 and 5 is 10, and 1 more, the 6 is 11. And then I think that I can add on another number. I'm going to add on the ace, and I'm going to get 12. No, yeah, that's 12. And so I'm 1 away from 13, so I have a score of 1.
Got it.
All right. Your turn, Deborah.
Okay. Let's see.
Geez Louise. I'm taking her to Vegas with me.
Okay, so I'm leaving the queen and the 10. I'm going to go with the 6 and the 7 again, Dawn, and I'm going to get a 0. And in round 2, I would add my score from round 1 to round 2. It's still a 0, okay? So I'm going to put a 0 in. And Dawn, I'm going to go back up to your first square, and I'm putting in your 1. Is it like, I see a pink box there, but I don't, there we go. Maybe we got 2 of them. Sorry.
Hit enter, sorry. Okay, here's Dawn's turn again. Ooh, I love this. Okay, I know my 10s and some more facts. So I have 10 and 3, that's gonna be 13. 0 points for Dawn. So actually I had 1 point, not 11.
I know.
That's okay. I still love you. So I had 0 in that one, but now I would have a rolling total of 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can either put the rolling totals going across, or you can put your numbers in for each one and then add it up at the end. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But the idea is, with this game, Deborah, what are teachers doing while kids are playing? Could I ask?
Oh, Dawn, that brings us back to our next slide, which we don't have to go to, but once the teacher teaches the game, and like you and I are the learners, the teacher is wandering around, not wandering, but gravitating. She knows what strategy he or she, they know what they're looking for, and they've got either their clipboard, their iPad, however they're keeping track of this. They're listening for strategies and watching what's happening, the interaction between players, because that is going to be the evidence that they're collecting to see student growth in math fluency, instead of giving students a sheet with 100 problems, starting the clock, and then kids filling in an answer. So we don't know, did they get lucky? What strategy? How is this happening? So thanks, Dawn, for bringing that out.
Deborah, I do know on the companion website, they have lots of assessment tools as well.
They do.
So are you telling me I could take one of those assessment tools, put it on a clipboard, and I am looking to see and capture evidence with a small group of kids as they're playing this game? Is that what I hear you saying?
So yes, Dawn, you could go, and this is a little contrived. I feel like I'm on a talk show or I'm an infomercial, and I'm not trying, I'm sorry, I apologize, okay? But here's the deal. On the companion site linked on the Hyperdoc, yes, you can see a few of the assessments that are included in the book. In the book, There's like 25 different assessments that are not only for teachers, but can be about students monitoring their own progress. And then an overall class. It's just the resources are phenomenal. Okay, so thanks for asking that, Dawn. And with that, I think this brings us to thinking about reflecting on this quick session today, which, you know, we actually get shut down, cut off in a few minutes, and we want to allow a couple minutes to answer questions. If you have any lingering questions in the chat, you know, we dug into the fundamentals of fact fluency, about foundational and then derived facts. We played some games and activities with you. We shared the links and the resources on our HyperDoc. And although I know a lot of this, because it comes hard and fast in less than 90 minutes, we introduced or helped you know that there could be a progression for our addition and subtraction facts, and then our multiplication and division facts. So that's kind of the end of our presentation, but we are here. If you type a question in the chat, we will try and answer it before they cut us off.
Well, Deborah, I also want to share that you and I are going to be we're currently teaching this class right now and it's closed. Starting in September, on Monday afternoons, we're going to be doing the full 15-hour class around this. So 9 of the hours are synchronous and 6 hours are in the Google Classroom, and they're optional. So check media color, and if you see Math Fact Fluency and our names on there, and you want to sign up, we'd love to have you.
I actually think our next one is entitled Math Fact Fluency, Going Beyond the Book Study. I think that's the one in the fall, Dawn.
Right. And a good question from Frank. Oh, Tammy, we'll start with you. I got my book through Amazon, I think, but also ASCD and or NCTM. If you just Google search that, you can find it. It's about $30 and well worth it.
Yeah, it is. It's about 31. Go ahead, Dawn. I'm going to answer Michelle's question in the chat.
Okay, and Frank, the Jamboards were pre-made. That's why we chose them. They were pre-made. The last one that we did, the Lucky 13, we actually created that one in a Google slide and just repurposed it. So, but we do have that one for you to be able to use as well. But the Jamboards are on that companion site where I went and showed you earlier. I can do that really quick again. On here, that companion site, you'll go there, and if you go to games, you're going to see all these different games. Erase is one that we've played in the past as well. Here's a Jamboard. There's a video of how to play, and then there's also some teacher directions, some student worksheets as well. So it's all pre-made, ready for you to use. It's awesome. Do we do a book study? So not so much a book study, but we do go through our synchronous classes and we kind of break it up by chapters. So you kind of get the overview of what each of the chapters is, but it's definitely worth.
It's beyond a book study.
Yeah, so. Playing and sharing. Yeah, there's yeah. Oh yeah, that over and over that I'm reading Lynn's comment. A student who struggles with facts, she'll figure out 6 times 8 with the strategy, but then it comes up later. She doesn't really, I think, know how to apply it, and she gets kind of stuck. I'm hoping I'm rephrasing that okay, Lynn. Yeah, that's where you bring in the visuals and really get them to manipulate it, because just doing it abstractly, it's not clicking in with her. That's why we like to press on those visuals quite a bit as well.
And I'm going to add to that, Dawn. We modeled this today, and I hope this helps, Lynn. So not only having those visuals, and what we mean by those are those other flashcards that aren't numbers, you know, that we shared with you earlier, or literally manipulatives in front of them, but having discussion, open discussion that's not rushed on how did you get your answer, so that they're connecting it back to some strategy. They're either breaking apart, they're doing something to get their answer. And I would start with smaller numbers, 6 times 8 to begin with, so that they can be successful and see that that could work for 6 times 8 as well. If you haven't tried that, I'd highly suggest it.
Yeah, I would say if she can't figure it out in another situation, we call that fragile thinking. She's very fragile with where she is in her understanding, or he, because it's a lot of our learners are that way. So
Lots of our learners. Yep.
yeah. Any other last questions? Stop my share.
Yeah, there's still 66 people in the room, so
Unbelievable. Last day of the conference, and we still have all these people. This is awesome. So thank you. Oh,
it isn't listed on PD Enroller yet.
Michelle. Yeah, both Deborah and I, we had to step away for a little bit in June and July, and we're just kind of now starting getting it going again. But it'll be up in the next couple of weeks, so keep checking.
And here's how I would check. I would go to PD Enroller. I would search Math Fact Fluency, and then click into those and see who the facilitators are. There are other people that do straight up book studies, and they're wonderful if that's how you learn best. Dawn and I offer something that we want to be more than just a book study. And we want to incorporate other work like the things from Dan Finkel, Graham Fletcher, all those extra activities that we really believe are worth building in.
Oh, I forgot to show the last slide, Deborah, but the last slide really is on your HyperDoc. It's just thinking about our emails are there. And so if you have further follow-up questions or you want to know more information, just shoot us an email. We'd be happy to respond. And happy to support. So that's our job. So
okay, Michelle, you made my day with okie dokie. Got it. Have a good afternoon, all of you. I am pretty sure it is, Cupertino is telling me it's 13:22, and I think we have just 3 minutes. So if there's anything else, great. If not, have a good afternoon, and maybe we'll meet you somewhere, either virtually or face-to-face along the way.
bye, guys.
The pounding has stopped for a moment.
Peace out, Paul. That's funny.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Sims is from Spokane. I think I saw that yesterday somewhere. I could be crazy, but.
True dat. There we go.
You two are awesome. Thanks for doing this for everybody. We really appreciate it.
Well, we had a few technical errors, but we seem to weather that storm because of our friend Jeff Crawford, who always keeps us grounded and just keeps